Welcome or welcome back. Today I've got 5 colors that I'm using. I've got Viridian Green, I've got Green Yellow, I've got a brown that I mixed custom, Ultramarine Blue, and I've got a custom kind of teal aqua-ish color. My goal today was to make something that resembled peacock feathers. I've always loved the way that the colors shift as the light hits them, the way that you can have brown and green and blue, and it shifts so naturally. It boggles my mind. It's one of those things that when you see color shifting pigments in paint, you want to replicate it. It's like this is nature and I want to make this a thing. So I was inspired and I went in with lofty plans, and as I often do, immediately got distracted by trying to cover my 16 by 20 canvas with paint. I have sped this video up to 2 times the natural speed just for your own comfort of viewing. I believe this one was 48 minutes originally from start to finish. It was quite long, and paint on the edges started drying, but it was an absolute pleasure to create, and the end result was stellar. But man, did it make me work for it. So here I am just moving the paint around, trying to get it covered without necessarily going over any edges yet. And I get inside my head, trying to get too meticulous about it at times. And that eats a lot of time. Popping bubbles that I created, spreading paint. I use and very often use Sherwin-Williams Color to Go Tricorn Black on my base today. It is very simple to use, straight out of the little jug. You can pour right on the canvas, and it is amazing for blooms and bloom swipes. It's probably too thick for most other forms of fluid art as far as a base is concerned, but it works amazing as a pillow for Shelly art methods. I'm laying out my colors in somewhat of a branch shape. Each side is kind of offset from the other side. I was intending to make a fringed feather-looking appearance, and it didn't really turn out like that. But what I got instead was pretty nice. I've got just amazing pops of color and beautiful cells that ended up happening. But for now, I'm layering colors. This is that incredible green. It almost looks like it should be a fluorescent color. It's so bright. Laying down the brown, which is this little pigment by Fluid Art Co. That's a mixture of cappuccino and the color art brand Autumn Leaf. It's kind of like mixing a copper type brown into a chocolatey warm brown, made for a beautiful color. Getting my ultramarine ready. Ultramarine is possibly one of my favorite blues, and it's interesting because I rarely use it. I really need to add that to my frequently used pile of paint. It's such a bright, vivid blue color, and you can mix it in so many ways to create so many blue variations. And purples and greens, it's endless. It's an amazing blue. If you don't have ultramarine, you should definitely grab one. This teal I made with 3 different This Little Piggy pigments, once again by Fluid Art Co. It is, what is it? Lily pad, sea glass, and mermaid mixed together. If I'm being honest, a green and an aqua and a turquoise really just make like a turquoise-ish aqua, right? I probably didn't need to mix the three of them, but I can't help myself. So that is what I did. My cell activator is golden, heavy body, iridescent gold. I drizzle it onto my palette knife and then I spread it around using gravity to get it evenly coated across it. I started with each of the limbs, I guess you could say, of these branches and swiped outward, slight squiggle. In some places where I started, that gold was really heavy and I didn't blow it out in that sort of bloom blowing fashion that I likely should have when I first started. So it stayed very thick. Didn't get a lot of cell action because I blew it too late. I got a little bit, not much. After I realized that I was being a little heavy-handed with it, I started kind of flicking the excess cell activator off, which is sacrilegious in some circles because Australian Floetrol is far too valuable to just be flicking off your palette knife in such a way, but things happen when you're recording, and that is a thing that happened. Each time I swiped after this particular one that just happened, I tried to alternate which end I started with. So if the heavy end of the palette knife was on the left last time, I tried to start the heavy end on the right on the next branch so that thick part of the cell activator would be on a different side. I'm trying to figure out which side that is. There we go. And because I didn't put enough paint around on those edges, I'm wiping all of that excess onto the edges because you can never really have enough paint over there on dry canvas. I will need it soon when I start tilting. Just waiting for that gold to travel, tapping the palette knife. Come on, little cell activator, you could do it. Even at 2 times the speed, it still took forever. And swipe. Go to bed. Go to bed, puppy. Good boy. And the last one. Oh, that looks like my smaller one. So I had been using a teardrop palette knife for the other swipes, but I think that on that last one I used my little diamond. It's very, very tiny, and it's really only good for detail work as far as fluid art. You know, palette knives have plenty of use outside of that, but it is really, really nice to get intricate little swisps. That's likely not a word. Little wispy swipes. I had dripped paint in various places while I was laying down my colors, and so I'm taking just bits of paint and wisping them away start tilting a little bit. Your greatest fear, I think, when you're recording during fluid art is that when you start to tilt, everything wants to collapse on itself rather than move nicely. And sometimes that first initial movement it's a little scary because everything is just, the cells are sinking upon themselves, and the design that you just spent 20 plus minutes working on is just shrinking and shriveling. I think that's why I got so spoiled using my spinner, because very often you can preserve a lot of the integrity of your design when you spin, and a lot of times when you tilt, you're risking it. If your consistencies are off, if the paint has begun to dry around the edges, you're really, really kind of gambling with your end result. And early on, I had done so many different pieces that I tried to tilt, and I messed them up so badly. I'm finally getting it down, getting the hang of it, but man, that practice time has been painful, and I'm still a little bit scarred by it. So I'm taking a lot of that thick black paint that I didn't move before I started and covering edges. Not because they won't be covered when I tilt, we all know they will be, but if you have wet paint on those edges, it travels easier than it would travel over a dry canvas. Sometimes I remember that while I'm pouring, and I cover the canvas to start with. Oftentimes I don't remember, and so then we all get to watch as I cover the canvas with paint. So that's what I'm doing. It is as tedious as it can be, possibly one of my favorite aspects. I actually think that in this one, it was my first time using my newly set up spinner, and I got a little bit distracted, I'm not gonna lie. I started tilting and the paint started moving, and I ended up just spending a lot of time covering the top of the spinner with paint. I can't really explain it. It's really one of those ode to childhood scenarios. You get the paint on your hands and you can't stop, you have to spread it around. It's finger painting for adults, and I love it. Here we are spinning away. I was determined to make that paint start moving. It was very stubborn. It did not want to go anywhere. Probably because I spent 20 plus minutes working on swiping, and things started to dry. Oh, good. Here I am, covering the spinner top, because that is clearly a crucial part of this pour. I will admit, I made this video, at least a week ago, if not more, at least a week ago. And I'm very new to video editing, and I tried my very best to figure out how to cut this part so that you, my 24 followers, didn't have to watch it. But alas, I don't know how to edit that much. Luckily, I sped it up slightly, so it didn't take the entire 7 minutes that it did in real life. You're welcome for that. That's me. Still covering things that are not important. That is me. If you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? I really, truly had so much fun doing this one. It stressed me out tremendously, but I really enjoyed it. So at this point, looking at it, it could have been done. Some excess paint probably need to be moved around, spun some more, but design-wise, it was pretty sound. But like I said, I went into this dreaming of peacock feathers, and gosh darn it, peacock feathers I would have. So I have this silicone brush, kind of like a brush that you would slather barbecue sauce onto chicken or a pork chop. I don't know. I haven't used it for that. I bought it exclusively for fluid art. But it's just a little silicone nubbed brush. And I had tried it once as a swiping tool, and it wasn't terribly successful. If I were the type of person that liked using silicone, which I'm not, it would probably be a really good swiping tool. So my thought, which was untested, this was entirely a practice piece for all intents and purposes. My thought was that I could drag out some of the harder edges of color with the gold. I used the gold cell activator, even though I knew it wouldn't really sell up, just in the event that I got any sort of fun. What I did get, and it kind of surprised me as I was going along, was this really kind of, it was definitely feathery, but it was this faint, just gold. There was a hand gesture there that you couldn't see. It just kind of wisped away into the black. It was very gentle from start to finish. It just gave these really delicate, wispy, almost like steam in the air. It was barely there. The way that it ended up drying, those just gold wisps were phenomenal. I definitely would like to play some more with that, maybe not on a 16 by 20 after I'd already been working on a piece for 30 plus minutes. But in the future, I definitely want to play with that again with probably just a thin paint, not necessarily a cell activator, and this brush. It's not easy to clean in between swipes. You definitely get a lot of paint in there, probably because it wasn't designed for what I'm using it for. It was designed to get liquids in there and hold them and spread them. Not really the greatest use ever. Did I mention I was having fun though? Like, this was fun. Once I figured out how to keep it very delicate and not heavy-handed in some places with the like gold pinstripe lines, it was definitely a pretty discovery. Back to spinning, trying to keep the walls of my pool up, always. I've got a bunch of blocks of wood in there now helping me out. They help some. The pool is determined to collapse in on itself, so it's a constant struggle. For those of you out there that have a 4-foot pool for your spinning, please leave comments as to how you keep yours standing, because mine, its mission in life is to collapse in on itself, and it would really be happy if I had nothing inside of it. It really wants to lay flat. It's a collapsible pool. It's designed to have water in it, but it really is fighting me on most days. I finally got it to a point where I've got probably 40 inches or so of space. I'm pretty content with that. Oh, yeah, see those ribbons of gold? That's what that brush did. Ooh. Some of those cells are beyond anything that I've seen. And obviously this is wet still, but it dried almost exactly the same. There was nearly no change at all. Absolutely gorgeous piece. Those gold ribbons. So yeah, get yourself a silicone the sauce spreading brush, because it does some pretty things, especially on black. There's the overall, and that is how it dried. You can still see those gold ribbons just as clearly. All right, you guys, thank you so much.